Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajanandana Yashodanandana Rajajanandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vijanavalabha Girivardhari Vijanavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajanandana Yashodanandana Rajajanandana Nativa Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Madhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha. Jaya Radha Ramasundara Ramasundara. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitya Gaura Deva, 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 Deva. Nitya Gaura Deva, 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 Abhachan Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Iskan Pamachari Divine Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Yo Vishnu Praham Sabarvachkacharya Sutra Sudashi Shri Divine Shri Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Anand Guru Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Shri Vidas Thakur ki jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sri Gaura Bhakta Ki Jai Shri Shiva Hare Krishna Gopika Shyam Radha Kunj Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavan Ki Jai Vandarajman Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Nitai Gopavanande. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories, Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories, Shri Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your association. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses 12 to 34. We got quite a few verses to go through today. The son of Drona punished. Om Jnanatimi Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sarva Shastra Piyusha, Sarva Vaireka Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokai Triprada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kalidwando Didaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean, all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you who are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world. O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna, who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshashivaya Te Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisances unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madhika Bandhu Matsange Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tadai natini chochataraka hanamun chakda chinmam premna hritkateo spura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, who give us saintliness to the unsaintly, who are uplifted to the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma through the love, pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yatanvayaditarata Charte Swabhigna Swara Tene Brahma Hidayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Risha Damna Svena Sadani Rasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna, because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destructions. destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifest by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of material worlds. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanopasha sabya kalavasmin yuge jana mandasu mandam tayo mandabhagya upadrita. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, many but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayan namaskrityam narochevam narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. If reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremacy human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshaja hoitukya pratyata yayatma suprasiddhati. Supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted, completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatya Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahoitikam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmyati paramatmati bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru Shru Shrochadananasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Syan Mahatsavaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. Or twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryabdantastoya Bhadrani Vidunati Suritatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor, truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nastrapayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Untumasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular tenets in the class in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praise or transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, and let us cover some feedback, even though we had a break. Let's see if you could recall something that you found interesting, that captured your heart, that you wanted to memorize in the verses 7 to 11. Namavati Radhika says, we are spiritually diseased and need medication. Our impurities are like insects, spiders, and worms. We should see this when looking in the mirror. We must understand our shortcomings and have full faith in Srila Prabhupada, this Krishna conscious movement of love to revive our true effulgence and nature. Atma Rama verse, how Lord Chaitanya gives so many meanings in CC and how Lord Chaitanya shows his Sadbhuj form. Krishna is all attractive and everyone is attached to Krishna. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we are becoming attracted to the lotus feet of Krishna. Wonderful. Thank you for resuscitating our memory on those important points. Madhachana Siddhi says, whatever is given in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is the proper dosage of medicine we require for purifying our life. And if we accept these medications and apply it in our life, our heart will start to heal. Wonderful. Yes. Any others? So Prabhupada is the physician. We are the patients. The disease is a spiritual one. And the medication is given by Srila Prabhupada in the form of Krishna Katha, ultimately coming in the form of the holy name, and the diet is Krishna Prasad. So we have everything in this spiritual hospital to heal ourselves. Prabhupada said, everything you need is in my books. So there's absolutely nothing that we require from an external source. Therefore, if anyone else is presenting any alternative, you can say thanks, but no thanks, because we have the solution. We don't want to waste more time trying and testing other solutions, because this is tried and tested. Nalini Kanda says, this material body, unwanted, give it up, surrender to Krishna, Srimad and Srimad Bhagavatam, and simply yes. We have to really come to that understanding. We have to realize that conviction. The sooner we come to that conviction, the sooner we will be stress-free. Because we just surrender to the Supreme Lord. Sharanagati, take shelter of the Supreme Lord and leave the rest to Krishna. Vasaraj Prabhu says, the theme of Srimad Bhagavatam, or SBG, what is SBG? Theme of is to cure disease in the heart, stopping the pangs of material existence. Let me know what SBG is. It's interesting trying to Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Right, must be, yes. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Prabhupada says, what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? Purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to destroy the nitions of material existence. So to cure our disease. Bhafana Prabhu says, difference between Nivriti Marg and Privriti Marg later is condemned by Narada as its inclination for the conditions. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a science of the former Nivriti Marg, to become free. Our goal is not to be attached to the material world, is to be detached, to renounce. But the best way to renounce is not to renounce. The best way to renounce is to become attached, because the nature of the living entity, the natural inclination of the living entity is more of attachment than detachment. We love to become attached than to be detached. Therefore, it's easier to become attached to Krishna and automatically thereby become detached from the disease of exploiting this material world. Mother Les says, Krishna uses his devotee personalities to reveal our shortcomings, our mistakes. He's using his devotees to teach us lessons. It's his way of chastising us. We should understand who is the personality that we can take shelter of. Yes. Krishna is mercifully directing us through all his wonderful devotees. Vasaraj Prabhu says, reading Srimad Bhagavatam dissolves false ego. That is the root cause of all our problems. If there's an underlying cause, it is this, false ego. It is false, and therefore you are going to experience all the inconveniences. Prabhupada says, all the incompleteness due to taking on a false identity. We have an identity. That identity is, I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. Any identity outside this, you will experience all forms of incompleteness, big, small, bad, ugly, long, short, thin and thick, inside, outside, you name it, you're going to get it. So we have to really take shelter, and the quicker we purify our ego, the quicker we become free. It's really a question of, are we tired? Are we Did we have enough? Prabhupada says for one to be serious about spiritual life, he has to be sufficiently frustrated with material existence. Are we sufficiently frustrated? If not, hang around. It's coming. It's coming. Shama. Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum remedy for the suffering humanity of the clutches of Maya. Yes, Pafana Prabhu says, everyone is searching for the highest pleasure, the difference between the Karmis and the Atmarama. And even though the Atmaramas have the highest pleasure, still, which is, let's say, liberation, experiencing Brahman, this universal energy. Still, what attracted Sukadeva Goswami was Atmarama, was the glories of Krishna. And therefore, Bhagavatam is super excellent because even the Karmis can derive great benefit from Bhagavatam. Even the devotees, even the pure devotees, even the liberated Atmaramas can derive great pleasure. What to talk about the Paramhamsas? This is a Paramhamsa Samhita. This is a Paramhamsa scripture that we have access to by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for all those wonderful feedbacks from the devotees. Let us proceed. So today we're going to be covering two sections, 12 to 16, lamentation of the Pandavas' dead sons, and 17 to 34, Arjuna captures Ashwatama. So the first section, 12 to 14, the killing of Draupadi's son by Ashwatama. Very, very wonderful section. And there's going to be a storyline. So remember, Srimad Bhagavatam is a story, has a storyline, and it has a philosophical line. And here we're going to cover a lot of this. There's quite a few verses that covers a storyline. So we may not, we'll go into the story, and where applicable, where the philosophical points are there, we will elaborate on that. This section is wonderful because in this section, Krishna personally is appearing. It's the first time in all the chapters that we've covered in the first canto. Krishna is described, but is not introduced personally. He hasn't entered into the Bhagavatam, just like Vyasadeva has entered, Narad Muni has entered, Sukadeva Goswami has entered, the sages of Namisharanya, Shonaka Rishi, Vyasadeva, Sutta Goswami. So the sages have entered. Krishna is entering this section. For the first time, we are going to be presented with the superhero, the personality of the Bhagavatam. And let's see how he enters the stage. Just like a hero, like in a movie, there's a hero. And when the hero is presented, they zoom out, to the hero, but they don't show his face. They show, different parts of his body and, different angles. And, maybe he's killing, he's doing whatever he's doing as a hero. And then they, show him with music. And so now let's see how Krishna is introduced in Bhagavatam. Verses 12 to 14, killing of Draupadi's son by Ashwatama. Text 12. Parikshito tata rajeshar janma karma vilapanam samstam cha pandu putranam bakshe Krishna katho dayam. Sutta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Shonaka. Now I shall begin the narration, transcendental narration of the Lord, Shri Krishna, and the topics of the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage among kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. So now Sutta Goswami is presenting, he's introducing the sages amongst king, Maharaj Parikshit. And the chapters now that's going to unfold, we're going to hear more about Parikshit Maharaj. And we're also going to hear in these different chapters of the Pandavas, and specifically how they renounce the world. We're going to be hearing about the topics of Maharaj Parikshit, his life, different incidents that happened in his life, and how he was even delivered by the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada in the purport makes a very, very important point. Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the different kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activities. And those of you that were there when I gave the talk on the last day of Kartik, and I emphasized that this point, Krishna personally incarnates. This is very, very special for us. In all the other yugas, and if we just take one day of Brahma, there are 4,000 yugas. And especially in Kali Yuga, when the Yuga avatars, in every Yuga, there are Yuga avatars. So there's 4,000 Yuga avatars in one day of Brahma. And a Yuga avatar comes at the beginning of the age to present the process of perfection for that age. In Kali Yuga, the Yuga avatar is Lord Chaitanya. Now in every other Yuga, the Yuga avatar is generally an expansion of the Manvantar avatar. In this period, Vamanadev is the presiding Manvantar avatar, and from him the Yuga avatar expand, and very often they are Shakti Veshin expansions, which means empowered living entities that come and give the process. Otherwise, there are expansions that give the process. Now, in this specific Kali Yuga and Dwapara Yuga that passed, it is very, very special. Out of the 4,000 Yuga avatars, this is the first time, and it only happens once in a day of Brahma. So it's happening now and never again until the next day of Brahma. This specific period is where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, directly from Goloka Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna personally appears. And therefore, the pastimes that the Lord performed 5,000 years ago and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes and what they've given coming through Srila Prabhupada is extremely, extremely our good fortune. It is rare, and it is a golden opportunity that we have to receive the knowledge, because the extent of the knowledge that they give compared to the other Yuga avatars is complete. In the other cycles, the Yuga avatar would be, let's say, an expansion of Vishnu or empowered incarnation. Therefore, when he's giving the holy name, he's giving the process, the knowledge, and the holy name does not give you the highest limits of bhakti. In this age, we're able to access the highest limits of bhakti. So do not take the process and the knowledge that we are receiving lightly. We cannot sufficiently glorify what they've done and our good fortune in terms of the timing. It is perfect timing. We couldn't be in a more perfect situation than we are currently. Therefore, take full advantage. Then Prabhupada continues, any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord, is to be understood as a transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all the supplementary literatures like the Puranas and the Mahabharata are simply stories or historical facts. Now Prabhupada is making a very, very bold statement. All the Vedas, all the Ityasas, all the histories which are there given to us by Srila Vyasadeva. And even you could even extend it in the mundane sphere, whatever histories, etc. you got. If Krishna is not in there, Shriva eva kevalam, it's a waste of time. It is just stories and histories, historical facts. We're not interested in stories and we're not interested in historical facts. You could have the Guinness Book of Records in terms of, I know all these historical facts. Basically what you're saying, I know all these historical facts and I'm going to hell. That's the bottom line. It's a waste of time. So, Prabhupada is making the point, Krishna needs to be in there. And if Krishna is in there, that becomes transcendental. But with Krishna, they become transcendental. And when we hear of them, we at once become transcendentally related with the Lord. That is why it is so special and important. That when we are in contact with anything connected to Krishna, we are connected, we are related. We are personally cultivating our relationship with Krishna. It could be the holy name, it could be the Bhagavatam, it could be the devotees, it could be Krishna Prasad, it could be the holy name, it could be a book distribution, it could be any activity related to Krishna, connected to Krishna. We are strengthening our relationship with Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is also a Purana, but the special significance of this Purana is that the activities of the Lord are central and not just supplementary historical facts. Srimad Bhagavatam is thus recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spotless Purana. There's a class of less intelligent devotees of the Bhagavad Puran who desire to relish at once the activities of the Lord narrated in the 10th canto, without first understanding the primary cantos. They are under the false impression that the other cantos are not concerned with Krishna, and thus more foolishly than intelligently, they take to the reading of the 10th canto. These readers are specially told herein that the other cantos of the Bhagavatam are as important as the 10th canto. No one should try to go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos. Note, Prabhupada says that no one should go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport. It's not, I have read the 9 cantos and therefore I'm now going to the 10th canto. No, it's not a question of reading. It is the question of understanding. So understanding is important. Krishna and his pure devotees, like the Pandavas, are on the same plane. Krishna is not without his devotees of all the rasas, and the pure devotees like the Pandavas are not without Krishna. The devotees and the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about Krishna are all Krishna Katha, or topics of the Lord. So the Goswami is saying he's going to speak about Maharaj Parikshit, he's going to speak about the Pandavas. That means he's going to speak about Krishna. Why? Because the devotees are connected to Krishna. And when you talk about the devotees, you're going to talk about Krishna. Their lives are dedicated in love to Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you cannot talk about the devotees without mentioning Krishna. For us, it's also relevant. Any subject matter, any glories about Srila Prabhupada is connected to Krishna. Therefore, hearing about Prabhupada, hearing about his pastimes, hearing about the Pandavas, hearing about Maharaj Parikshit, hearing about Arjuna, this is all topics of Krishna Katha. They're not separate. They're not separate topics. Okay, they are one and the same in the fact that it's related to Krishna and therefore transcendental. In this section of verses that we're going to cover today, we're going to be presented with a moral and spiritual dilemma. And before I discuss that, Prabhupada just in one lecture re-emphasizes this point of Krishna's glories and the devotees' glories are all Krishna Katha. This Srimad Bhagavatam is another Purana history. We have already explained. So sometimes a class of devotees known as the Sahajas, they say that what do we have got to do with the narration of the Kurukshetra battle? They immediately jump to the Krishna Leela directly with the gopis and Krishna's activities in other fields. They think it is useless, but that is not the fact. Anywhere Krishna is acting, that is transcendental. The battlefield of Kurukshetra, historical references, descriptions, so superficially it appears that what the devotee has got to do with the battlefield. But battlefield or no battlefield, wherever there is Krishna, there is transcendental. Those who are advanced, they know that Krishna is dancing with the gopis, that Leela, and Krishna is playing as the leader on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is the same. It is all transcendental. One should not make any distinction between the two. Samstancha Pandu Putranam Vakshe Krishna Kathodayam. Pandu Putranam, the Pandu Putras or the Pandavas, the son of Pandu, they're all devotees, even their political affairs, because there is a connection with Krishna. It is Krishna Katha. Now, in this Krishna Katha that we're going to be covering about the Pandavas and Ashwatama and the Brahmastra that he's going to release, because it's connected to Krishna, it is transcendental. But the theme that's going to be coming out here is sometimes we may be put into a moral or spiritual dilemma. In this section, we're going to hear how Ashwatama, who is the son of the Pandava spiritual master Dronacharya, he's a Brahmana, and you cannot kill a Brahmana. At the same time, he's an aggressor, and you have to kill an aggressor. So the dilemma is, should we kill Ashwatama or shouldn't we kill Ashwatama? Okay, that's the dilemma. And very often we are always caught up in such dilemmas. Both is correct. Brahmanas should not be killed and aggressors should be killed. But at the same time, we have here Ashwatama, who's a Brahmana and an aggressor, which generally doesn't happen. You don't get Brahmanas who are aggressors. Brahmanas are very peaceful. They are compassionate. So Ashwatama is placed in this situation, or Ashwatama is now going to be treated, and Krishna is going to be testing Arjuna's understanding. How is Arjuna going to apply the knowledge that he's received? Is he going to be thoughtful, or is he just going to be applying, one side of a certain principle? And Krishna is encouraging his thoughtfulness. Prabhupada said a devotee should try to be thoughtful, intelligently thoughtful. We find in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this dilemma is also there in the pastime of Govinda. After Harinam Sankirtan, Lord Chaitanya was exhausted, and Lord Chaitanya came to his residence and he took rest right in the doorway. And Govinda would daily come and massage the Lord after Harinam Sankirtan. So he came, and this time he saw the Lord right in the entrance. Now, there is a principle, philosophical, spiritual principle, that you don't cross over any spiritual paraphernalia. You don't cross over what to talk about your seniors, what to talk about Lord Chaitanya himself. You don't even cross over the shadow of Tulsi Devi. So this is a principle. Yet, Govinda had to serve the Lord. He had to massage the Lord's lotus feet and body, transcendental body. So he's in a dilemma. Do I cross the Lord and create that offense, or do I and neglect my service, or do I cross over and serve the Lord? Now, what's interesting is Govinda, who displayed the perfection of how to solve one spiritual or moral dilemma, he crossed over Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came in and started massaging the Lord. So he broke one principle, crossing over the Lord, for a higher principle of service to the Lord, and started serving the Lord. The Lord awoke and asked Govinda, have you taken lunch? And Govinda says, no. And the Lord said, why not? He says, no, I couldn't cross over you, my Lord. And the Lord said, but how did you come in? I crossed over you, my Lord. So why can't you go out? I can't cross over you, my Lord. So the Lord said, why is this, you can cross over me to come in, but you can't go out. Why is that? And Govinda said, my Lord, I can cross over you for your service, but I cannot cross over you for my service, for my sense gratification. So this, Chijama was very pleased with Govinda in this way. So sometimes we may be placed in dilemma. Which principle to minimize or to break? And the rule is we always can break a lower rule for higher rule. Text 13 and 14. Yadam ride kaurava srinjayanam vireshvato viragatim gateshu vrikodhara vido gada bhimarsa Bhargo Bhagno Rudande Tatarashtraputre Bhartu Priyam Dronir Itisma Pashyan Krishna Sutanam Sopatam Shiramsi Upaharad Vipriyam Evatasya Jugupsitam Karma Vigarhayanti. When the respective warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the dead warrior obtained their deserved destinations. And when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down lamenting, his spine broken, being beaten by the club of Bhimsen, the son of Dronacharya, Ashwatama, beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi and delivered the heads as a prize to his master, foolishly thinking that he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act, and he was not pleased the least. So Sutta Goswami is taking us to the end of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we are now hearing how he's lying dead. Duryodhana is beaten, his spine broken by Bhima. And one of his surviving well-wishers or warriors, Ashwatama, decided to do something which he thought was going to be glorious, and that was kill the 5 sons of Draupadi. He thought this would, basically destroy the Pandavas completely. And he did that. He came and he presented the 5 heads to Duryodhana. Duryodhana was not happy. One reason is because for Duryodhana, even the 5 sons of Draupadi were actually the continuation of the Kaurava dynasty. And now Ashwatama stopped that. Also, this was a very, for a warrior to do this, this is condemned. A warrior is someone who faces the enemy face to face, and he'll challenge them. I fight you. I challenge you to a battle. This is a warrior, not kill innocent, harmless children who were sleeping. This is truly condemned. Prabhupada in the purport says, transcendental topics of the activities of Lord Shri Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the end of the battle at Kurukshetra, where the Lord himself spoke about himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, both the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are transcendental topics of Lord Krishna. The Gita is Krishna Katha, or topics of Krishna. because it is spoken by the Lord. And Bhagavatam is also Krishna Katha, because it is spoken about the Lord. So Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord, and Bhagavatam is spoken about the Lord. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted everyone to be informed of both Krishna Kathas by his order. Lord Krishna, Chaitanya is Krishna himself in the garb of a devotee, and therefore the versions of both Lord Krishna and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are identical. Lord Chaitanya desired that all who are born in India seriously understand such Krishna Katha, and then, after full realization, preach the transcendental message to everyone in all parts of the world. That will bring about desired peace and prosperity of the stricken world. So Prabhupada, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and Prabhupada have left, especially those who are born in India, a very, very grave responsibility. And that responsibility is really to spread Krishna Katha in the form of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to the Western world. Prabhupada gave the example. Prabhupada says, India is lame, and America, Western world, they're blind. If you bring both worlds together, that means bring the Krishna Katha, bring the wisdom from the East and the wealth from the West, and you combine that. You bring the lame man and the blind man, then they can help each other to achieve peace and prosperity. This is the only solution. Spreading Krishna Katha is the only solution that will bring peace and prosperity to this world. No other solution will work. There may be a bandage solution. You apply a temporary bandage, but that's not the cure. The true cure that will help at the root is Krishna Katha. It'll help our own lives, and it'll help the lives of everyone that come in contact with Krishna Katha. So Bhagavad Gita ends off with the battle of Kurukshetra, and Krishna is talking about surrendering to him. Srimad Bhagavatam is now continuing, sharing all the examples of those that have surrendered to Krishna and their qualities, their characteristics in different situations that they've been through. Here consider Draupadi's 5 children are killed in their sleep. Draupadi, if just her situation, she's a devotee of the Lord, and somebody can question, that same question could be presented to Arjuna, that Arjuna, his own son was killed in the Abhimanyu, in the battlefield, and how he was killed so mercilessly. Draupadi, her 5 sons are killed so mercilessly. And someone may question, and they are devotees of Krishna, how is this possible? And again, as Mother Lash said, Krishna is putting his devotees in these situations. A semi-devotee, a half a devotee, quarter devotee, no devotee, they would say, I'm a devotee of God, this is what he does, I resign. I'm not interested. But we find Arjuna, we find Draupadi, all these exemplary devotees, that their love is tested. And again, that it strengthens their bond with Krishna. They may not understand why, but they have firm faith that Krishna is in control. Krishna is doing these things for whatever reason. So here we are going to see how this situation is dealt with. And we'll see how Draupadi, how she responds to the situation. Just put yourself in that situation. You at the camp, you are Draupadi. your 5 sons are sleeping, and next minute you hear that they're all beheaded, all 5 are killed. How would you respond? How would you react? And let's hear how Draupadi is going to react to the situation, and how the Pandavas are going to deal with such a situation. So Draupadi's lamentation, 15 to 16. 15. Mata shishunam nidanam sutanam nishamya goram paritapya manam tadarudat vapsa kala kulakshi tam santavyan hakirtima kiritamali. Draupadi, the mother of the 5 children of the Pandavas, after hearing of the massacre of her sons, began to cry in distress with eyes full of tears. Trying to pacify her in her great loss, Arjuna spoke to her thus. Tada suchaste prajri jami badre yad brahma bando shira atata inam gandiva mukte vishikair upahare tyakramya yat snayasit tagda putram. O gentle lady, when I present you with the head of that Brahmana, after beheading him with arrows from my Gandiva bow, I shall then wipe tears from your eyes and pacify you. Then after burning your sons' bodies, you can take your bath standing on his head. So Arjuna is a warrior. Draupadi is also a Kshatrani, also a warrior. And warriors, naturally, they have this Kshatriyas. They are meant to protect others from harm. And they're very, very powerful personalities. So Arjuna is making very clear that I will behead Ashwatama and bring his head, and you can wipe your tears and you can bathe standing on his head. Prabhupada in the purport says, any enemy who sets fire to the house, administers poison, attacks all of a sudden with deadly weapons, plunders wealth, and usurps agricultural fields, or entices one's wife, is called an aggressor. In Bhagavad Gita also, in the first chapter, second chapter, Prabhupada talks about these six aggressors. Such an aggressor, though he be a Brahmana or a so-called son of a Brahmana, has to be punished in all circumstances. When Arjuna promised to behead the aggressor named Ashwatama, he knew well that Ashwatama was the son of a Brahmana, but because the so-called Brahmana acted like a butcher, he was taken as such, and there was no question of sin in killing such a Brahmana's son, who proved to be a villain. So in the Vedic system, there is Manu Samhita, which describes corporal punishment, giving death sentence to those that kill others, or even the 6 aggressors. Anyone who engages in any of these 6 aggressions is called an aggressor, and an aggressor can be killed without you getting any sinful reactions. In fact, the aggressor gets freed from his sinful reactions, otherwise in his next life, he'll have to suffer. And the Pandavas went through all 6 aggressions. Bhima was giving poison, their house were burnt, Draupadi was disrobed, they were attacked with weapons, their land was plundered. They went through all 6 aggressions. So Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita says, for the Pandavas to attack and kill the Kauravas was rightfully so, it was proper. And here also Ashwatama, who even though was a son of a Brahmana, because he acted like an aggressor, like a villain, like a butcher, then for Arjuna to say, I'll behead him and bring his head was proper. 17 to 21. So now Arjuna is going out to fulfill his promise. He's going to capture Ashwatama. 17 to 21. Let's see how Ashwatama responds. Now, in this section that we're going to cover now, we are going to hear the hero being introduced. This is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is going to be introduced for the first time in person in the Bhagavatam. And when a hero, as we mentioned, is presented for the first time in any movie, in any novel, they present his characteristics, his qualities, and specifically the prominent qualities for that specific scene or movie. Here we're going to be presented with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has inconceivable, unlimited qualities. And we're going to hear how he's presented, which is very, very significant in the Bhagavatam, in the context of the Bhagavatam, in the context of our own lives. How is Krishna going to be presented in this section? Text 17. Iti priyam valgu chiritra jalpai shashan vachuta mitra sutam anadravyatam sita ugradanva api dvajo guru putram rathena. Arjuna, who is guided by the infallible Lord as friend and driver, thus satisfied the dear lady by such statements. Then he dressed in armor and armed himself with furious weapons, and getting into his chariot, he set out to follow Ashwatama, the son of his martial teacher. So in this, we have underlined Achyuta Mitra Sutta. This is how Krishna is introduced. And we're going to keep that in mind. We'll speak about that. Achyuta Mitra Sutta. 18. Tam apattantam sa vilakshya druta durat kumara hodvigna manarathena paradravat prana paripsur urvyam yavad gamam rudra bhayadyataka. Ashwatama, the murderer of the princes, seeing from a great distance Arjuna coming at him with great speed, fled in his chariot, panic-stricken just to save his life, as Brahma fled in fear from Shiva. One time Brahma will come to that pastime in the second canto, ran after his daughter. Lord Shiva was very upset, and Lord Shiva chased him. So Ashwatama is now very fearful because Arjuna is chasing him, and he knows he had full experience of Arjuna's power with Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because even with practically more soldiers than the Pandavas, with Bhishma Dev, with Dronacharya, with so many powerful warriors, they lost the battlefield. They lost the battle. So Ashwatama had realization of Arjuna's prowess, and he fled in fear. So Achyuta Mitra Sutta, this is how Krishna is introduced in the Bhagavatam. For the first time, he's introduced. Arjuna is guided by the infallible Lord as a friend and driver. He is presented, like in Bhagavad Gita, as a charioteer of Arjuna. And again, just as in Bhagavad Gita, this is very, very significant, because it presents Krishna's Bhakta Vatsa, his inclination to his devotees. This is Krishna's most important quality. His bond, his affection, his love, his reciprocation, his attention for his devotees. And infallible. He never fails in responding, reciprocating. We can depend on Krishna. He's the only one that's infallible. Otherwise, every living entity is fallible. So Arjuna or Krishna is described as infallible, presented here, and we're going to see in so many pastimes this quality of Krishna amplified, coming to the forefront, trying to instill faith in us that that personality that we surrendering to is no ordinary personality. It is the supreme personality of Godhead, Achyuta, who's infallible. Prabhupada in the purport says, according to the reading matter, either Ka or Arka. There are two references in the Puranas. Ka means Brahma, who once became alert by his daughter and began to follow her, which infuriated Shiva, who attacked Brahma with his trident. Brahmaji fled in fear of his life. As far as Arka is concerned, there is a reference in the Vamana Purana. There was a demon by the name Vidyunmali, who was gifted with a glowing golden airplane, which traveled to the back of the sun, and night disappeared because of the glowing effulgence of this plane. Thus the sun god became angry, and with his virulent rays, he melted the plane. This enraged Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva then attacked the sun god, who fled away and at last fell down at Kashi Varnashi, and the place became famous as Lo Larka. 19. Yadra Yadasa Ranam Atmanam Aikshata Shranta Vajinam Astram Brahma Shiro Mene Atmatranam Vijatmaja. When the son of the Brahmana, Ashwatama, saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of his using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra, nuclear weapon. We are now going to be presented with two options. Whenever we are placed in difficulty or danger, when anyone is placed in difficulty or danger. Here we see Ashwatama is placed in difficulty and danger. How is he responding? Then we're going to see the Pandavas are also going to be put into danger. The devotees are going to be put in danger. And how are they responding? Okay, so both the devotees and the demons are put into danger. How do the demons respond, and how do the devotees respond? So let's see how Ashwatama, who's a demon, how he responded. He decided to use the Brahmastra, the nuclear weapon. In the ultimate issue only, when there is no alternative, the nuclear weapon called Brahmastra is applied. The word Dvijat Maja is significant here because Ashwatthama, although the son of Dronacharya, was not exactly a qualified Brahman. The most intelligent man is called a Brahmana, and it is not a hereditary title. Ashwatthama was also formerly called a Brahma Bandhu, or a friend of a Brahmana. Being a friend of a Brahmana does not mean that one is a Brahmana by qualification. A friend or son of Brahmana, when fully qualified, can also be called a Brahmana and not otherwise. Since Ashwatthama's decision is immature, he is purposely called herein as a son of Brahmana. So Brahmana means one who's got Brahmanical qualities. And one needs to cultivate and have those Brahmanical qualities in order to be called a Brahmana. It is not that one has a 5 paisa thread makes one a Brahmana. No, one is a Brahmana by qualification, not by birth or not even by association, not even hereditary. Here, Ashwatthama is the son of a Brahmana, is born in a family of a Brahmana. Dronacharya is the guru, Brahmanical Brahmana, and He's born as the son of Dronacharya, but because he does not have the traits and the qualities of a Brahmana, he's called Brahmabandhu, or the son of a Brahmana. The other point is, we can see from his actions that he was not a Brahmana. He decided to invoke the Brahmastra. And we're going to be hearing about the Brahmastra in the verses to follow. So a demon, when he's in danger, his choice is further destruction. A devotee, when he's in danger, his choice is, who can say in the chat? A demon, when he's in danger or difficulty, his choice is further destruction. Oh, I'm going to die, might as kill more people with me. A devotee, when he's in danger, what is his choice? Vasaraj says, surrender to Krishna. Hemavati says, surrender to Krishna. But the less says, surrender to Lord for protection. Yes. This is a devotee. So, 20. Athopash prishya salilam santa detat samahita ajanam api samharam prana krichra upashtite. Since his life was in danger, he touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for throwing the nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons. So he touched water, chanted a mantra, invoked the Brahmastra, and was ready to release it. Scripture says, or Dhanur Shastra, scripture that talks about warfare. See, in Vedic culture, a Kshatriya, a warrior, a soldier, he also follows code of conduct called Dharma Shastra. He doesn't just act whimsically. There are rules and regulations, just like the Battle of Kurukshetra. You blow the conch shell sunrise, and you blow the conch shell sunset. War starts when the conch shell is blown in the sunrise and ends, and you fight during that time. Soon as the conch shell is blown, sunset, war stops, and you can go to each other's camp. You can greet each other, help each other. Then you're not enemies, you're friends. As soon as next morning conch shells blown again, war starts, you're enemies. And there's certain, you can only fight a warrior opponent if he's got the same weapon. You can't fight an opponent. If I'm on my feet and a warrior is on an elephant or a chariot, they won't fight each other because they're not equal. You need to you also have to be on a chariot. You also have to have the same weapons. There were rules that guided warfare. So one of the rules is you can only release a Brahmastra, a weapon, if you can retract it. Ashwatama knew how to release it. He did not know how to retract it. Weapons to sound. Prabhupada writes, the subtle forms of material activities are finer than grosser methods of material manipulation. Such subtle forms of material activities are effected through purification of sound. The same method is adopted here by chanting hymns to act as nuclear weapons. So in the Vedic system, the Vedic culture, there's the science of manufacturing. Prabhupada in one lecture says, manufacturing weapons. In the material worlds, the scientists, they manufacture on the gross level. In Vedic science, they manufacture on a subtle level. And how do they manufacture? They manufacture using sound. So with sound, transcendental sound, or mantras, hymns, I can invoke certain sounds related to different demigods, And through those different sounds related to different demigods, I can invoke, I can manufacture different weapons. So here you'll see some of the deadly weapons used in the Mahabharata. The Pashupatrashtra, Brahmastra, the Narayanastra, Nagastra, Sudarshan Chakra, different weapons. And they are created by sound. This is a higher science, which naturally people have no access to. But in the Vedic system, the science was there. Now, what's interesting, or relevant for us, is that sound can create. And in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada, many places he writes, just as sound is the source of creation. In the Bible, what does it say? In the beginning was the Word. In the Vedic system also, creation is manifested from Krishna's flute playing, which then enters, initiates Brahma, and appears in this world as Om. And creation starts. So creation is manifested by sound. And all the different layers and levels of manifestation, creation is there through sound. Just as creation can be through sound and is through sound, we can have destruction through sound, and we can completely destroy our material existence also through sound, and revive our spiritual existence through sound. And that sound is completely transcendental. Krishna's holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What's also interesting to note is we are not, the Bhagavatam is not presenting, here topics of Brahmastra, and now somebody will say, wow, just see, they had weapons and they were far more, futuristic, and they could manufacture with sound. This is so cool. No, Bhagavatam is not presenting that side of this topic of Brahmastra. The Brahmastra topic is there because it's released by Ashwatama, and the focal point is Krishna's devotees and Krishna. That's the focal point. The Bhagavatam's focal point is only Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Everything else is there in terms of the storyline and part of the pastime. 21. Tata pradushkritam teja prachandam sarvato disham pranapadam abhikprekshya vishnum jishnur uvachaha. Thereupon a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjuna thought his own life in danger, and so he began to address Lord Shri Krishna. So the Brahmastra is a nuclear weapon. Practically, it can destroy the creation. It's like an atomic bomb. And this was released. And Arjuna was in that situation, and he was in danger. And here we see, how did Arjuna respond? Arjuna responded by going to Krishna. So this is the first set of prayers in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam has many, many, many prayers by different devotees. This is the first set of prayers by Arjuna, 22 to 26. So when a devotee is in difficulty, he approaches Krishna. This is how we approach challenges, difficulties. 22. Arjuna vacha Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dhayamananam Apavargosi Samshrite. Arjuna said, "O my Lord Shri Krishna, you are the almighty personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotee. everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation in you only. So Arjuna is coming to Krishna and he's saying, Krishna, Krishna. It's not, he's not saying Krishna, Krishna because, he wants to make sure that the verse rhymes. Due to Sanskrit, he wants to make sure that there's, 8 syllables, etc. It's not because of poetry, no. Right? It's a scribe, he's saying Krishna, Krishna because he's in ecstasy. And therefore he's coming, Krishna, Krishna. And then he's glorifying Krishna. And here, in the few verses that he glorifies, in this verse, he's glorifying Krishna as the ultimate shelter. Krishna, he presents for his devotees, Bhaktanam Abhyayankara. He instills fearlessness in the hearts of his devotees. Why? Because Krishna can destroy material existence. Krishna can liberate one from material existence. And because Krishna is the only one that can liberate you from material existence, you become liberated from material existence, and thus the consequence is fearlessness, which implies that as long as you're in material existence, there will be fearfulness. You will always be fearful. What's next? The fourth wave, this next, that challenge, this calamity, next war, all these different things, next hijacking, next robbery. This is the nature of this material, next disease. Okay, we have to understand we are in the material existence. Dukhalema Ashwatama. We in this material world of dukkha, of anxiety, and our ultimate shelter is Krishna. So yes, it's going to take time. Just like the fan of material existence is moving fast. When we surrender to Krishna, we pull the plug, and the fan doesn't stop immediately. We pull the plug, which means we surrender to Krishna. Sharanagati, take shelter of the Supreme Lord, and the fan begins to stop. It takes some time. So let time take its course. Let us do what we need to do, is take shelter of Krishna. Prabhupada in the purport says, Arjuna was aware of the transcendental qualities of Lord Shri Krishna, as he had already experienced them during the Kurukshetra war, in which both of them were present. Therefore, Arjuna's version of Lord Krishna is authoritative. Krishna is almighty and is especially the cause of fearlessness for the devotees. A devotee of the Lord is always fearless because of the protection given by the Lord. Material existence is sometimes like a blazing fire in the forest, which can be extinguished by the mercy of Lord Shri Krishna. The spiritual master is the mercy representative of the Lord. Therefore, a person burning in the flames of material existence may perceive the rain of mercy of the Lord through the transparent medium of the self-realized spiritual master. The spiritual master, by his words, can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and inject knowledge transcendental, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. So very beautiful purport. Firstly, a devotee of the Lord is always fearless because he's protected. If we can measure, we can use this to measure the impurity in our heart. If you're experiencing fear, then that's a barometer that I have still a long way to go. I have work to do. Prabhupada's name was Abhay Charana, one who's fearlessly situated. Pure devotees are fearless because they've totally surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So fear is a very good way to measure. Am I on this journey and am I becoming more and more fearless? And am I totally free from fear? There's a quote here by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Samaj. If we take shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, we become free from illusion, fear, and distress. If we wholeheartedly beg for his mercy without any deceit, then the spiritual master bestows all auspiciousness upon us. So Prabhupada is that self-realized spiritual master. And through his guidance in the form of his Bhaktivedanta purports and books, we are getting transcendental knowledge. Prabhupada writes in this last few sentences, the spiritual master by his words can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person, us, and inject knowledge, transcendental knowledge, his Bhaktivedanta purports, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. So he is the mercy representative of the Lord. Krishna's mercy is coming through us to Srila Prabhupada in the form of his Bhaktivedanta purports, in the form of knowledge, so that we can inject that knowledge into our intelligence and brain and apply that knowledge to become free from material existence. Text 23. Tvam adaya purusha sakshat ishwara prakrite para mayam vyudasya chakstya kaivalyai stita atmani. You are the original personality of Godhead, who expand yourself all over the creation and are transcendental to material energy. You have cast away the effects of material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You're always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. So Arjuna approached Krishna, that my Lord, please give us shelter. You are the supreme personality of Godhead. Krishna could respond, I'm your friend, Arjuna. Why are you coming to me? Now we know that the Bhagavad Gita was on the same line in the second chapter when Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and says, Krishna, please guide me, and I need guidance, help. Krishna said, you need a guru. I'm your friend. Go to Vyasadeva, go to Dronacharya, go to Bhishmadev. They can be a guru. I'm your friend. So Arjuna was tested there also. Here, with that full realization, Arjuna is saying, no, Krishna, you're not my friend. Tvam adaya purusham shakshat. Adaya adi purusham. Govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. You are the original personality of Godhead. There may be many expansions and expansions of expansions, but Krishna, he is adi purusham. He's the original personality. And Arjuna says in this prayer, Arjuna is glorifying Krishna's transcendental nature. Krishna can help because he is transcendental. If you are in the ocean drowning and your friend is in the ocean drowning, your friend cannot help you because he's also drowning. Someone who's drowning cannot help somebody else who's drowning. Krishna is transcendental to the material creation. Therefore, because he's always transcendentally situated, he can help us who are immersed and drowning in the three modes of material nature. Prabhupada in the purport, Prabhupada writes this purport by using practically the whole purport is simply verses from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada puts together in English, but it's all Sanskrit verses. Right? So for example, Prabhupada starts, the Lord states in Bhagavad Gita that one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord can get release from the clutches of nations. 18th chapter. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. So Prabhupada is basically composing. Prabhupada does this very often in his Bhaktivedanta purports. Prabhupada will just take translations of verses and compose a purport. Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya, or material existence, is just like the darkness, Wherever there is the light of sun, darkness or ignorance at once vanishes. The best means to get out of the world of ignorance is suggested here. This is the best means. If we're intelligent, we will take the best means. The Lord is addressed herein as the original personality of Godhead. From him, all other personality of Godhead expand. The all-pervasive Lord Vishnu is Lord Krishna's plenary portion or expansion. The Lord expands himself in innumerable forms of Godhead and living beings, although with his different energies. But Shri Krishna is the original primal Lord from whom everything emanates. Very often people ask the question, who's superior, Vishnu or Krishna? This challenge is always there. Here's the answer. In this verse and many other verses, that Krishna is the original personality. Vishnu expands from Krishna. That is why Krishna is said to be the supreme personality of Godhead. He's the supreme amongst all the personalities of Godhead. So Godhead is not one person. Godhead is multiple people, multiple personalities. Why? Because Krishna can expand himself for different pastimes and purposes, yet stay the same person. We covered this in the one of the chapters in the first canto, that Krishna has this ability. We don't have that ability. We don't have the ability to expand. A yogi has the ability to expand 8 times himself, but each form is identical with the other. So whatever the original form does, every other 7 forms they do. They're not independent. Krishna can independently expand himself in different forms, different features, be separate and live as have his own planet and associate with devotees in that specific form. This is Krishna's inconceivable potencies. But the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original personality. The all-pervasive feature of the Lord experienced within the manifested world is also a partial representation of the Lord. Paramatma, therefore, is included within him. He is the absolute personality of Godhead. He has nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material manifestation because he is far above the material creation. Darkness is a perverse representation of the sun. Therefore, the existence of darkness depends on the existence of the sun. But in the sun proper, there is no trace of darkness. As the sun is full of light only, similarly, the absolute personality of Godhead beyond the material existence is full of bliss. He is not only full of bliss, but also full of transcendental variegatedness. Transcendence is not at all static, but full of dynamic variegatedness. He is distinct from the material nature, which is complicated by the 3 modes of material nature. He is Parama, or Chi, or the chief. Therefore, he is the absolute. He has manifold energies, and through his diverse energies, he creates, manifests, maintains, and destroys the material world. In his own abode, however, everything is eternal and absolute. The world is not conducted by the energies or powerful agents by themselves, but by the potent or powerful by the potent or powerful with all energies. So Krishna's abode is full of variegatedness and full of bliss. It is not static and is not single brand, but variegated, multifold. Krishna's pastimes are multifold. Krishna's rasas are multifold. Right? They say a variety is a spice of life. The problem with the variety, which is a spice of life in this material world, is that it is temporary and there's always poison in that spice. That's the challenge. In the spiritual world, it is full of bliss and full of variegatedness. It's eternal. That is our home. And when they say sweet home, home, sweet home, well, they're referring to the spiritual world, not this material world. And that's where we need to go. Text 24. Sa eva jiva lokasya maya mohitam chetasa vidatse swena viryena shreyo dharma dilakshanam. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the 4 principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. So Krishna is transcendental. And even though Krishna is transcendental, he still follows the four principles of liberation characterized by religion, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Krishna still follows the principles of Dharma for leading or for being the example and showing how to live in this world. Prabhupada always would refer to Krishna, even Lord Chaitanya, in terms of taking shelter of a spiritual master, waking up early in the morning, praying. Krishna in Dwarka, Krishna gets up early and prays. Mangalarti, Krishna is Mangalarti. So Krishna is following, even though he's transcendental, but he's following, setting the example for us. This is his mercy. So Arjuna in this verse is glorifying Krishna as most merciful. And Prabhupada in the purport says, the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, descends on the manifested world without being influenced by material modes of nature. He is eternally beyond the material manifestations. He descends out of his causeless mercy only to reclaim the fallen souls who are captivated by the illusory energy. So it's the reclaiming process. Krishna is coming to reclaim us. They are attacked by the material energy and they want to enjoy her under false pretext. Although in essence, the living entity is unable to enjoy. One is eternally the servitor of the Lord. And when he forgets this position, he thinks of enjoying the material world. But factually, he is in illusion. The Lord descends to eradicate this false sense of enjoyment and thus reclaim the conditioned souls back. That is the all-merciful nature of the Lord for the fallen souls. And therefore, we are always praying and begging the Lord for his mercy. Text 25. Tatayam chavataraste bhuvabara jihir shrava jihish jihir sayam swanam chananya bhavanam anudhyanaya cha shakrit. Thus, you descend as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation upon you. So here Arjuna is now sharing different reasons, other reasons Krishna appears. You descend as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world, to benefit your friends, especially those who are exclusive devotees, Ananya, and are Anudhyanaya, constantly wrapped in meditation upon you. So this is those who are surrendered to Krishna, who are Krishna's unalloyed devotees, who are constantly meditating on Krishna. Krishna comes for them. Prabhupada in the purport talks about Krishna's partiality. It appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees. Everyone is related with the Lord. He is equal to everyone. Yet he is more inclined to his devotee men and to his own men and devotees. The Lord is everyone's father. No one can be his father, and yet no one can be his son. His devotees are his kinsmen, and his devotees are his relations. This is his transcendental pastime. It has nothing to do with mundane ideas of relationship, fatherhood, or anything like that. As mentioned above, the Lord is above the modes of material nature, and thus there is nothing mundane about his kinsmen and relations in devotional service. So why does Krishna perform these pastimes? For his relations, for his devotees, for his kinsmen. This is the only reason Krishna acts. Krishna lives, really. Krishna is inclined to his devotees, his Bhakta Vatsa. Here we find the Lord performing his pastimes, and in this specific situation, or the pastime we're reading now, storyline, Ashwatama released the Brahmastra and he kills the 5 sons of Draupadi, released the Brahmastra. There's a storyline in relation to, let's say, Ashwatama and the Brahmastra, but really Krishna's interest is simply his rasas interaction, relationship with his devotees. That's all. The storyline is by the way and can change. Just like Kalya, the serpent, the demons being killed, all different situations, storylines. But the underlining theme is Krishna's relationship with his devotees. Krishna wants to relate. Krishna wants to have pastimes with his devotees. So Krishna is interested in his devotees, nothing else. And that is why if someone is taking steps towards Krishna, if someone is taking steps towards surrendering to Krishna, you should be fully convinced with firm faith that Krishna is looking at you. Krishna's attention is on you. Just like here, Krishna is very focused and attentive to Viva Mangal Thakur. Krishna was bathing, respecting Sudama, washing his lotus feet. So Krishna is always attentive to his devotees. If someone is surrendering to Krishna, taking his steps towards Krishna, know for certain Krishna is looking upon you. Prabhupada says that if anyone is chanting even one time the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna writes his name in the black book. You get blacklisted. Now you are now blacklisted and you in Krishna's book, and he will never forget you. You are going to be tracked forever. So your life will never be the same. So that's a wonderful book to be blacklisted in. Krishna's black book. Text 26. Kim idam swit kuto veti deva deva na vedyaham sarvato mukham ayati tejaparama du darunam. O Lords of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it. So the Ashwatama shot the Brahmastra. Naturally, it created vast amount of energy, heat, like a nuclear weapon. And Arjuna was trying to understand, where is it? Where is it? So Arjuna could have asked this question immediately. Why did he offer from 22 to 25? Why did Arjuna offer his prayers and then ask a question? Arjuna had a need. His need was, what's happening? Right? I see something. I see fire. I see an inferno. What's happening? So Arjuna has a need, but he doesn't just go to Krishna and ask for that need to be fulfilled. He first offers his prayers. And Prabhupada in the purport says, anything that is presented before the personality of Godhead should be done after due presentation of respectful prayers. That is the standard procedure. Sri Arjuna, although an intimate friend of the Lord, is observing this method for general information. So this is etiquette in terms of our relationships and dealings. We covered this subject in our Vaishnava etiquette course. It is explained that etiquette, Vaishnava etiquette, is the ornament of a devotee. And Sri Mahaprabhu was very, very happy with Sanatana Goswami's etiquette, devotee's etiquette. So even though Arjuna was a friend of Krishna, he didn't say, hey, Krishna, tell me what's happening here. No. He's expressing gratitude and appreciation before his needs. So whenever we approach the Supreme Lord, Spiritual Master, we should express our gratitude and appreciation before our needs. This is etiquette. Just like, if you go to a manager's office, you don't just walk in, even though you can walk in, But you don't just walk in. You knock on the door. May I enter? And he'll say yes. That is etiquette. So similarly, with the Lord also, we don't just ask, but we glorify the Lord. We express our gratitude and appreciation, and then we offer our needs. We see this in so many examples. Dhruva Maj, when the spiritual aeroplane came to pick up Dhruva Maj didn't just jump into the aeroplane and say, okay, let's go. I'm happy, we're going back home. No, he went, he bathed, then he came, he offered prayers to all the saintly persons, seek their blessings. He didn't think, oh yeah, hey, you guys left behind, shame, man. Hey, I'm going home. Sorry, man. I don't know when your people's plane is coming, but hey, I'm off here. Bye-bye. Nope. He offered offered his obeisance, he offered prayers, seek blessings, and then he aborted the plane. We find Indra, when Indra committed an offense to the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna, and he came with Surabhi, and he started offering prayers before begging forgiveness. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, when he decided to write Chaitanya Charitamrita, he didn't just start writing Chaitanya Charitamrita. He went to Madan Mohan and he begged the mercy of glorified Madan Mohan, begged the mercy of Madan Mohan, and the garland of Madan Mohan fell on him. This was reciprocation that, yes, I bless you. So this is etiquette. We have to, even though there is this relationship, but we should never forget the etiquette. This is what is described here. Prabhupada is making the point that if it's done with due presentation, then this it becomes more pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then 27 to 28, Lord Krishna's response. So let's see now, after Arjuna offers prayers, he's asking Krishna, what is this? Now 27, 28, Krishna responds and tells Arjuna what it is. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Vededam Drona Putrasya Brahmana Astram Pradrashitam Neva So Veda Sam Haram Prana Bada Upastite. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, know from me that this is the act of the son of Drona. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death. Prabhupada in the purport says, the Brahmastra is similar to modern nuclear weapons manipulated by atomic energy. The atomic energy works wholly on total combustibility, and so the Brahmastra also acts. It creates an intolerable heat similar to atomic radiation, but the difference is that the atomic bomb is a gross type of nuclear weapon, whereas the Brahmastra is a subtle type of weapon produced by chanting hymns. As we explained, they use sound, produce all different sorts of weapons: fire weapon, wind weapon, water weapon, all different types of weapons, snake weapons. It is a different science. Which is chant. It creates an intolerable heat similar to atomic radiation, but the difference is that the atomic bomb is a gross type of nuclear weapon, whereas the Brahmastra is a subtle type of weapon produced by chanting hymns. It is a different science. And in the days gone by, such science was cultivated in the land of Bharatvash. The subtle science of chanting hymns is also material, but it has yet to be known by modern materialistic scientists. Subtle material science is not spiritual, but it has a direct relationship with spiritual methods, which is still subtler. A chanter of the hymns knew how to apply the weapons as well as how to retract it. That was perfect knowledge. But the son of Dronacharya, who made use of this subtle science, did not know how to retract. He applied it, being afraid of his imminent death, and thus the practice was not only improper, but also irreligious. As the son of the Brahmana, he should not have made so many mistakes, and for such gross negligence of duty, he was to be punished by the Lord himself. Yeah. So you can't say, I'm ignorant. Nope. You have to understand your duty. And Ashwatama, he made mistakes. Prabhupada said, you make one mistake, you can be forgiven. Second mistake, you can be forgiven. Third mistake, you can be forgiven. Fourth mistake, you get booted. So we have to learn from our mistakes and not keep repeating our mistakes. So we have gross material sound, we have subtle material sound, and then we have transcendental sound. We want to use transcendental sound to go and escape the material realm. We don't want to get caught up in gross and material sounds. And all aspects of sense objects manifest in the, or attract individuals, attract living entities in the form of sound. Advertisements, they attract. So sound is practically what creates, destroys, entangles everyone. And we can use that sound to also escape. 28. Naya syan yata mam kinchit astram pratyak vakarshanam jastra teja unadam astra no hyastra tejasham. O Arjuna, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your own weapon. So Krishna explained to Arjuna what it was, that Ashwatama shot the Brahmastra, and now Krishna is giving the solution, that you can counteract this nuclear weapon, this Brahmastra, by another Brahmastra. Prabhupada in the purport says, for the atomic bomb, there is no counter weapon to neutralize the effects. But by subtle science, the actions of a Brahmastra can be counteracted. And those who are expert in military science in those days could counteract the Brahmastra. The son of Dronacharya did not know the art of counteracting the weapon. Therefore, Arjuna was asked to counteract it by the power of his own weapon. What's interesting in the Vedic warfare is they would release one weapon and they could counteract that weapon with the opposite element. So for example, if somebody shoots a fire weapon, somebody can counteract with water weapon. So in this way, there was always a weapon to counteract another weapon. And then the final section, 29 to 34, Arjuna arrests Ashwatama. 29. Suto vacha shrutva bhagavata proktam falguna para viraha sprishtva pastam parikramya brahmana brahmastram sandade. Sri Sutta Goswami said, hearing this from the personality of Godhead, Arjuna touched water for purification, and after circumambulating Lord Shri Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counteract the other weapon. So again, here we see Arjuna's attitude, Arjuna's appreciation, to Arjuna's gratefulness. He didn't say, oh, thank you, Krishna, thank you very much, and off he goes. No. Again, he takes time to circumambulate Krishna. Oh, wonderful. Understanding that it is only by your power, only by your desire, only by your potency can this be successful. It's not me, it's not on my own strength. And therefore, he goes, circumambulates Krishna. Samhatyan yonyam ubayo stage tejasi shara samvrite avritya rodasi kamcha vavridate rikavanhivat. When the rays of the two Brahmastras combine, a great circle of fire, like the sun, like the disk of the sun, covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. The heat, Prabhupada's purport, the heat created by the flesh of the Brahmastras resembled the fire exhibited in the sun globe at the time of cosmic annihilation. The radiation of cosmic energy is very insignificant in comparison to the heat produced by a Brahmastra. So a Brahmastra is many times more powerful than nuclear weapon. The atomic bomb explosion can at utmost blow up one globe. but the heat produced by the Brahmastra can destroy the whole cosmic situation. The comparison is therefore made by the heat at the time of annihilation. 31. Drishtavastra tejastu tayos trilokan pradahan mahat dayamana praja sarva samvartakam amamsata. All the population of 3 worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the Samvartaka fire, which takes place at the time of annihilation. Purport. The 3 worlds are the upper, lower, and intermediary planets of the universe. Although the Brahmastra was released on this earth, the heat produced by the combination of both weapons covered all the universe, and all the populations on all the different planets began to feel the heat excessively and compared it to that of the Samvartaka fire. No planet, therefore, is without living beings, as less intelligent materialistic men think. Prajopadravam alakshya lokavyati karam chatam matam cha vasudevasya sanjahararjuno dvayam. Thus, seeing the disturbance of general populace and imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Lord Krishna desired. Prabhupada gives a beautiful and important purport. The theory that the modern atomic bomb explosions can annihilate the world is childish imagination. First of all, the atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. And secondly, ultimately it all rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord, because without his will or sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. It is foolish also to think that natural laws are ultimately powerful. Material nature's law works under the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says there that natural laws work under his supervision. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of tiny politicians. Lord Shri Krishna desired that the weapons released by both Droni and Arjuna be withdrawn, and it was carried out by Arjuna at once. Similarly, there are many agents of all-powerful Lord, and by his will only can one execute what he desires. So it's only due to the will of Krishna. Therefore, we find, over the years, people say, 1991 is the end of the world. Year 2000 is the end of the world. Year 2001 is the end of the world. The end of the world keeps coming. The end of the world will only be the end of the world when Krishna wills. Otherwise, life will go on, because everything rests on the will of Krishna. And therefore, when we surrender to Krishna, what fear can there be? If Krishna wills, it'll happen. If he wants to protect, so be it. If he wants me to learn a lesson, so be it. If he wants to wants me to go through certain experience, so be it. As devotees, our goal is simply whatever Krishna desires. Yes, it requires faith and conviction, and that attitude to be able to be surrendered for Krishna's pleasure. But that is what spiritual life is all about. Spiritual life is about learning to put your sense gratification aside and amplify and satisfy Krishna's pleasure. And Krishna is such a beautiful person. We see this beautiful picture, such a beautiful person. Why wouldn't we want to please such a beautiful personality? Text 33. Tata asadya tarasa darunam gotami satam banda dharmarsha tam raksha usam rasanayayata. Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger like 2 red balls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami and bound him up with ropes like an animal. Purport. Ashwatama's mother, Kripi, was born in the family of Gautama. The significant point in the sloka is that Ashwatama was caught and bound up with ropes like an animal. According to Sridhar Swami, Arjuna was obliged to catch the son of a Brahmana like an animal as part of his duty dharma. This suggestion by Sridhar Swami is also confirmed in the later statements of Sri Krishna. Ashwatama was a bona fide son of Dronacharya and Kripi, but because he had degraded himself to a lower status of life, it was proper to treat him as an animal and not as a Brahman. So again, we see it's not, your birth that becomes your, or how you are dealt with. Or I'm born in this family, therefore you have to deal with. No, it's not your position. Or I'm in this position, therefore, no. It is your actions. It is your attitude and actions that determine how you'll be dealt with, and not your position or your birth. And here Ashwatama is a perfect example of that. 34. Shibiraya nini shantam rajva badva ripu balat praharjunam prakutpito bhagavan ambu jakshanam. After binding Ashwatama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. So Krishna is angry. Draupadi in the purport says, both Arjuna and Lord Shri Krishna are described here in an angry mood. But Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendence, and thus he is absolute in any stage. His anger is not like the anger of the conditioned living beings within the modes of qualitative material nature. Because he is absolute, both his anger and the pleasure are the same. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of his bent of mind towards the cause of his devotee, because that is his transcendental nature. Therefore, even if he is angry, the object of the anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstance. And we understand this because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all those that saw Krishna, they achieve their spiritual form. And all those that did not see Krishna and were killed on the battlefield achieve heavenly planets. So even though they were enemies, but seeing Krishna, every aspect of Krishna is totally transcendent. Even Krishna's anger is a blessing. Just like the pure devotee's anger is a blessing. So Krishna's eyes were lotus-like, beautiful lotus-like eyes. Krishna was upset. Why? Because his devotees were impacted. And because Krishna is Bhakta-Vatsal, he does not take lightly any harm caused to his devotees. Krishna takes it very, very personally. Therefore, we should be very, very careful and diligent in our relationship with devotees. Dealings, don't take it easily, don't take it lightly. Be very, very cautious, right, and attentive to your relationship with devotees. And thus brings us to the end of these sets of verses from 12 to 34. We will continue next week with the next sets of verses. We're going to now hear what happens to Ashwatama. He's been captured, angry. No doubt he's going to be punished. How is he going to be punished? What is Krishna going to say? What is Arjuna going to do? How is Draupadi going to react? We will hear that next week. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Are there any questions or comments? If anybody would like to also unmute, you're most welcome to unmute, or you can type in the chat. Right, let's see. There was, Bafana Prabhu says, as far as material enjoyment is concerned, they are innumerable and materialists are eager to increase them more and more because they're under illusory energy. Sadly, is that there is no end to the list of material enjoyment, nor can anyone in the material universe have all of them. This is sad indeed. Why bother? Exactly, Bafana Prabhu. In fact, if you know now that the new technology, they call it Web 3.0, which is now going to be all about virtual experience. Now you can go into the metaverse. You can go into organic, what I call it, virtual reality and augmented. There's another word. Anyway, some reality, virtual reality, right? You go into this type of virtual world, and it's the next form of sense gratification, because now you can create whatever virtual reality you want, and you can go in it with technology and experience that. So your imagination is really the limit. Yet with all that, people are still going to be dissatisfied. And that's the whole, that's like the, they say that the straw that breaks the camel back, right? We go through all this technology advancement, and we're able to experience enjoyment and go through, all these types of sense enjoyment, and yet at the end of it, I'm still not satisfied. Like, well, after all that, you go bungee jumping, right? You get a thrill, and then you still get a headache. Right? You're still going to get old. You're still going to die. What's the use? Therefore, Bhagavatam is really the formula for peace and prosperity. Kalpana asks, why they killed, because Ashwatama thought it was the Pandavas. Yes, so that was the one that Ashwatama saw 5 people sleeping in the bed. So he thought, yeah, the 5 Pandavas, wonderful, and he killed them. So by mistakenly, he killed, because they actually, in the Mahabharata, they talk about how, they exchange the camps, and the 5 sons were sleeping. So yes, he thought he killed the Pandavas, but actually he killed the 5 sons of Draupadi. Did Ashwatama also use his Brahmastra to kill Uttara's unborn child? Yes, we're coming to that. That's going to be in the next chapter. Bafana Prabhu says, the word pretext has very deep meaning. Please define it if you'd enjoy a deeper characteristic carried in the world. Now you got me. Bafana Prabhu, that's in text 25. Okay, so the word pretext, under the pretext, has very deep meaning. Please define if you'd enjoy a deeper characteristic carried in this world. So maybe you can clarify exactly what the question is. Naturally, under the pretext, which means we present ourselves in one way, but actually we something else. That is how everyone lives in this world. Everybody's living a false lie. Nobody's living reality, yet they're thinking they're really living reality. Text 25, very impressive. I love it so much. The distinction is Krishna's relations. Yes. Shama. Is the Brahmastra that was released by Ashwatama still in existence on the planet or in the universe? No. So the weapons that we use in the Vedic system, the Vedic times, they always exist. Anyone who's qualified to chant those mantras, they can invoke the Brahmastra. It's not a weapon that comes and go, right? Or it's owned by anyone. No. In the material world, an object that's created is owned by somebody or lost by someone. Not in the Vedic science. In the Vedic science, you use mantras to invoke, to create, to manufacture, and you can use mantras to destroy. And you can recreate it by chanting the mantra again. So it's anyone that has the power or that knows how to chant the mantras, they can invoke. Ashwatama was released. Is he therefore still on the planet? Yes. He's still on the planet. He was punished. We're gonna cover the past time. He was punished because he's also Chiranjeevi. He's one of the souls that are eternally that live eternally, and He's still there, roaming around. He's atoning, as well as becoming purified, as well as becoming qualified for the next Vyasadeva in the next cycle. Text 32, Afana says, is the ultimate inspirer to me. Let's go to text 32. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planet, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapon as Lord Krishna desired. Is the ultimate inspirer to me by the way Srila Prabhupada confidently expresses the conclusion against the kind of politician persuasions we swim through in the material world. He makes possible that one is disentangled from the chains of the lies of modern politicians and their signs, and they're puffed up by demonic administration to control and illusion that they're in control of the material nature when they're absolutely not. I fully agree with you. In fact, the politicians, right, they are those in power, the politicians, they basically control the masses and put the masses in illusion where the masses think all is okay. In the meantime, they're like puppets moving in the direction of those who are the politicians. Yet the politicians under the material energy are influenced, thinking they're doing it ultimately without Krishna's sanction. They cannot do anything. So for us, we want to follow Hari Guru Vaishnava, Bhagavata Gita. We want to follow the line of truth coming to us by Srila Prabhupada. One time, the devotee was discussing about opinions. And Prabhupada said, our opinion is what Krishna says. So sometimes people say, what's your opinion? My opinion is what Krishna says. If Krishna says like this, that's my opinion. I'm happy with that. Conclusions and no discussion, no further discussion. So you're right. Prabhupada makes it very clear that it's all by Krishna's will. If Krishna doesn't will it, they can't do anything. So Krishna's sanctioning what they can do and what they can't do. And if you take shelter of Krishna, then you are safe at the lotus feet of Krishna. Madhvi says, many, many thanks, Prabhu, for your valuable association. Thank you very much for being here. Radhika, Hemavati Radhika says, an absolutely interesting and powerful class with so many valuable lessons to learn. This Krishna Katha is truly nectar and beautiful to hear. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for explaining so nicely. We're so grateful. Thank you very much for your feedback and association. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, thanks for sharing the wonderful nectar with us. Agree with the arresting and killing of Ashwatama. Correct decision for all parties involved to fit the crime committed and improper behavior. With regards to the 6 aggressors, how does one manage these in the current day situation, Kali Yuga, ISKCON, Sankirtan movement, etc.? Yes. So remember, Prabhupada wanted to establish the Vedic system again, the Vedic culture again. So in order to establish the Vedic culture again, you need to have the head first, the Brahmanical side. So Prabhupada started preaching to create the Brahmanical side first. Then once that is stabilized, we can then create the Kshatriyas. And once we have the Kshatriyas, that means the warriors. And not just, I'm not talking about Mickey Mouse warriors, right? I'm not talking people that just press buttons, stay under the bunker and press the buttons. I'm not talking people that give a command, right? They're at home and the poor soldiers, that are not even Kshatriyas on the battlefield. No, we're talking about real Kshatriyas, real warriors. There's a group of devotees that are trying to establish that. And you see, these are real warriors. These are like the Mahabharata. These are warriors. They have ethics, they have culture, they are Kshatriyas, they are powerful, they're not scared, they're fearless. They have a whole different trait, right, to them, different nature. So once that is established, now we select a saintly king who has the Kshatriyas to support him and guided by the Brahmins. When that happens, now you can filter down the Varnashram system. And at that point, if it is an aggressor, the Kshatriyas will immediately get hold of the aggressor and do the needful. They can kill him right there and there, no problem. See, right now, we can't apply that because we don't have all the pieces together. It becomes very difficult. Right? The politicians, Prabhupada, in Kali Yuga, Sudra Sambhavan, Kalo Sudra Sambhavan, everyone is Sudra, which means right now politicians are not Kshatriyas, they are Sudras. So the legs are doing the work of the hands. And if the legs do the work of the hands, it will be trouble. We need to establish proper hands. So that will take some time. That will take some time. It's not going to happen instantly. So right now we have a bad bargain. We have to make best use of the bad bargain. And that means for us, we have to pray to Krishna to protect us from the aggressors. If we have devotees that are, they like to be like policemen protecting, then they can slowly take that initiative and help and protect the devotees to some degree or other. But really, we need to have proper Kshatriyas for us to apply these tenets from the Vedas. Mother Lash. Hare Krishna, thank you for the glorious Krishna Katha. Your love for Shri Krishna is very, very infectious, and I'm grateful for your association. My query, subtle material science is not spiritual, correct, but it has a direct relationship with the spiritual method, correct. Please, can this be explained using a practical example? Yes. So consider, let's take the Brahmastra. So for you to invoke the Brahmastra, you would have to chant a mantra. And the mantra, I don't know the mantra. I'm just going to speculate a mantra, right? Om Brahmastra Namaha. So there is, I'm invoking, because the Brahmastra is Lord Brahma's weapon, which means I need to invoke the mercy of Brahma. So every Vedic mantra starts with Om. Om is Krishna. In all cultures, Krishna is introduced in the beginning. So for example, Krishna creates a creation by blowing his flute, which then manifests as Om. Right? In all the Vedic mantras start with Om. In English, all the powerful words, omnipotent, omniscient, starts with Om. Krishna. Krishna is omnipresent. Krishna is omnipotent. Om. Even in the other traditions, Krishna is Krishna is invoked. That's the connection. That's the spiritual connection. Om is a spiritual connection to Krishna. Then we get the middle part, which is referring to the personality, the presiding deity. So in this case, Brahma. And then Namaha, or invoking, or whatever the action is. Right? So this is how the mantra is related to subtle sound, but in the mantra, there is the beach, the seed connected to Krishna. So every mantra has a seed connected to the Supreme Lord. And in Vedic system, in the Vedic mantra, it's Om. In the Maha mantra, it's also a mantra. So it also has the seed, it also has the deity, presiding deity, and it also has the activity. So the Maha mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The seed, the bija, is Krishna and Radharani. The presiding deity is Krishna and Radharani. And the activity is, please engage me in service to Krishna and Radharani. So the Maha mantra is basically name, name, and name. Holy name, holy name, holy name. Therefore, it's the most powerful of all mantras. That is totally transcendental. It's got nothing to do with the material realm, and it's got nothing to do with material creation. Totally transcendental. But other subtle mantras are related within the material realm. So I hope I've explained it or give some light according to my limited understanding. And yes, I pray that I can have love for Krishna. Right now, it's, you could say, very reflective, or a bus, or fraction of the reflection of love. Just because of Prabhupada's mercy, what he's given us, that is reflecting, that's coming through. But by the mercy of the devotees, by the mercy of Hari, Guru and Vaishnav, then we can achieve pure love of Krishna. Also, Prabhu, is Ashwatama a Chiranjeevi? Yes, as we said. Does he still have a role to play for Lord Kalki in this to counteract the actions of him killing the son of Draupadi? Yes. So when Kalki destroys everyone, then Kalki is going to re-establish Satya Yuga, and Ashwatama will be very instrumental. Shama Prabhu, thank you very much. Madhachani Siddhi says, Hare Krishna, thank you for really interesting class. Viresh Prabhu, Hare Krishna. The meaning of the word Bhagavatam means in relation to Bhagavan, to the Supreme Lord. Yes. All about the Supreme Lord, in connection with the Supreme Lord. So, correct. The devotees are in connection, as Prabhupada says. Everything connected to Krishna means transcendental. Prabhupada specifically points us out in the verse in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where all the soldiers' names are mentioned. And when Prabhupada in the verse says, what's all these soldiers' names got to do with Krishna? But because they are, or to do with spiritual life, but because they are connected to Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, even associating with those names means you're associating with Krishna. Viresh Prabhu says, appreciate the theme as highlighted so much in today's verse. Yes, thank you. Jagannath Prasad, thank you for today's class. Your explanations are so easy to follow. I'm glad. Bafana Prabhu says, I like the way you introduce the systematic class, introduce and systematically classify the topics and divide and subdivide them for purposeful and nicely guided read, not just reading. And this is so ecstatic, and it's really it really engrave the storyline as well as carry the plot along beautifully. I'm really grateful and enthusiastic. Haribol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Bafana Prabhu. Rasaraj says the holy name is the weapon for this age. Ki Jai. Yes, that's the real Brahmastra to really blow and explode all the material desires in our heart. That's the weapon that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used. Right? When Sri Mahaprabhu came in this world, he was ready to release the Surasan Chakra and kill Jagai and Madai. And Lord Nityananda said, no, you're not meant to use any weapons in this age. Illegal. Revoke. The only weapon you meant to use is your beauty and the holy name. So that's the weapon we should use. Krishna's beauty and the holy name. Bafana Prabhu said, it's so beautiful how the questions of three different sounds explain how it is so crucial that we comprehend sound and the use of transcendental sound given in the manner of Hare Krishna or Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I connect this to text 10 where the word Hari is elaborated. And so when one chants, one is it with full understanding. Yes. And Prabhupada gave us, in fact, there's few purports where Prabhupada describes very systematically how creation starts. And we're going to go, when you get to the third canto, we will hear how creation systematically is created, right? From all the sense objects, different limbs, etc. Water, fire, air, all the elements, sense objects, etc. And we can reverse that process through sound. First, we chant with our lips, physical sound. Then we chant with our intelligence. Then we chant with our mind. I think it's with our mind, then with our intelligence, and then with the soul. So as creation is created with sound, so we can dissolve all our conditioning and the false ego through sound. So really sound, Krishna Katha, the holy name, sound vibration, transcendental sound vibration, that is the key, that is the secret to success. And hearing Bhagavatam is part of that secret and success. Thank you very much for all the devotees and your association. We will meet again next week for continuation of exactly what happens. And we're going to see this Bhakta Vatsal, Krishna's reciprocation, how Krishna is going to reciprocate and what Krishna is going to do with the Pandavas in dealing with Ashwatama. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.